welcome to the second and final review of the evening, Lamplight City. So this comes to us from adventure game creator Francisco Gonzalez, who previously worked on games for Wajidai such as A Golden Wake and Shard Lights. This game, we had him on the program last year. Well, the game was in development, if I'm recalling correctly. Indeed, this has been completed, and it's definitely different than his previous works. This is a point-and-click adventure game using the AGS Adventure Game Studio engine.
Is this the one where they were talking about being twice as high resolution as before?
No, that was the Unavowed.
Yeah. I knew it was one of the two.
Yeah, I know Wajidai usually publishes AGS, but whatever circumstances happened between Gonzalez and Wajidai, they were clearly enough where he moved to another publisher, Application Systems Heidelberg, who is a German publisher. We've reviewed some games from them, namely Nelly Kudelot.
Oh, I thought they were from the Heidelberg in Wyoming.
Boo.
Anyway, much like Unavowed, this is an adventure game in a different through line. That is to say, it is an adventure game, but you're not the puzzles are pretty basic, quite honestly. At least the actual use the thing on the thing, and another thing, your inventory is pretty automatic. There are a few puzzles like that, but they're not logic mind benders of the highest order. And
however, there are interrogation and information gathering things.
That's really the meat of the puzzle solving. You're a detective who is charged with solving cases, and the actual challenge, the difficulty, is in actually solving cases correctly. Because you can mess this up in many ways.
Yeah, this isn't like Phoenix Wright, where your options are eventually guess the right answer or get a game over. You can actually get the wrong answer
and send the wrong person to jail.
That can happen. You can
or at
also
least accuse the wrong person. Yeah.
Yeah. It's accuse the wrong person. Accuse the wrong person in a bad way with one of the cases. Go with a completely cockamamie explanation in another one. Actually saying that the spontaneous human combustion is a thing, and this is what happened, basically. You can even get to an unsolvable state. I don't know how you do that, because honestly, I found getting the best endings for each case to be pretty obvious. And really what that involved is basically doing the whole case. How do I put this? It was pretty apparent which were the wrong paths and which were the right paths, especially when you got the recommendations. If you get a recommendation and you still got half your casebook to fill, that was probably not the right path.
Mm-hmm.
You can still, but those are not the only kind of choices you can make. A big part is the state of your marriage, because you play Miles Fordham, a wrecked shell of a man who, and your literal first choice is how your partner dies. It's you either take the shot or you don't. You still end up, you're still going to end up with a dead partner and, you know, a degenerating human being. But the difference is, you know, did you like directly kill, or, you know, did he, you know, or did the um, thief kill? I'm not sure how much of a part that plays, because I didn't go back and play like alternate routes or anything. It was more focused on completing the game. And in terms of length, this is going to be a decent sized adventure. Clocked in about 14 hours. The game will span 5 cases, each one fairly large. You know, and there is case-to-case continuity. Not a huge amount, but, you know, what you did on like case 1 and so on and so forth will be brought up in various aspects in later cases. But like I said, you know, the most important other choices is what you do in regards to your wife when you get the choice. Sometimes, you know, your character is going to make choices for you that you might not necessarily have wanted to do for the sake of the narrative. And yeah, unlike, say, The Unavowed, you are very much playing a character. In fact, this game is very character-driven. More so than, say, story-driven, because honestly, the major storyline really doesn't, you know, is only like the beginning and the end, with unrelated cases connecting. You know, that is to say, you know, your overall task is to find the killer, and a big reason is like how they handle the descriptions for the everything is you hear the voice of your dead partner. Now, it's actually one of the more clever ways to, you know, handle the classic ludonarrative dissonance of inventory and, you know, and having your protagonist be a fucking chatterbox about things. We've all played that adventure game where your protagonist is talking about everything to no one in particular, and people just roll with that. No, in this game, that's very much a part of the game, like an actual part of the mechanics, and like, you know, Miles will talk to himself, but he has to be careful about it, because as to make sure that people don't think he's insane and, you know, throw him in the asylum. You know, it's quite, you know, it's honestly a good solution for things. Probably on par with Firewatch, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anyway, as far as the game itself, it's a solid adventure game. Like, I'll be honest, I did not like this as much as, say, Shardlight. But then again, I thought Shardlight had a much stronger story, you know, and whatnot. I suppose one of my issues is with the voice acting. It's adequate, but like Miles...
Yeah, it just seemed a little bit off, and part of that is this... What city is this? Is this in England, or is this in...
So, that's kind of the flavor that this game is going for is alternative steampunk.
Yeah, what I was getting at is that there are a lot of English-ish place names, and nobody has a British accent.
Okay, so this is basically New York as envisioned by England.
Ah, okay.
You know, you're not on the continent of America, you're on the continent of Vespuccia. And
Fair enough.
it's the city of New Bretagne.
Okay.
And
I guess that explains why there's a Chumley. I'd say also Worcester, but there's actually a Worcester, Massachusetts. So
right, there's also some French influence because there's another section of the city called Lyon,
mm-hmm.
and not like Lion or anything like that, but the French pronunciation. And like one of the bonus things you can unlock is the actual map. Mind you, I think the background details of the steampunk world kind of fell apart a bit because you still have England, you still have France, you still have bloody fucking Australia. Like, okay, the old world I could understand still having the same names, but Australia really shouldn't be called Australia if you're not calling America America. Because guess what? Australia is another fucking colony, isn't it? But these are just background quibbles. And outside of like the detective work, this is taking place probably in the late Victorian era. Because
well, you said it's steampunk, so there's always the off chance that Victoria has had her life artificially extended and is like 400 and something years old. But
right, but I'm talking about in terms of technology progression. Granted, it's
right.
Really evolved steam tech way beyond what you would see as you'd expect from steampunk. But what I'm getting at is it's late 18th century because we're on the precipice of discovering a thing called ethericity. And if you can't figure out what that's a stand-in for, that's electricity. So we are talking post-second industrial revolution, I'm thinking. But, but before, Edison, light bulb, what have you. And yes, I know about Edison not actually being the discoverer of the light bulb. It's a complex situation, and Edison's a fuckwad. But that's a story for another day. The point is, and the big fear is, something that's been a pretty consistent thing when it comes to new technology. The steamworks are replacing people, and they even have a Luddite stand-in called the Redites.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely, I'll be honest, it's definitely presented in a more modern lens because they're talking about full automation of things that steam tech couldn't possibly fucking automate. Now, like self-driving steam cars.
Well, I mean, if you make like a computer powered by valves, you could do that. Although I suppose it would probably be about the size of a gymnasium.
Well, I mean, this is This is steampunk for you.
Right.
It's doing it. Remember, it's doing really impossible things. Honestly, this is probably some of the most grounded steampunk I've ever seen. Because let's face it, steampunk is just inherently ridiculous. That's kind of the appeal. Yeah. Because as a technology, steam didn't really survive the 19th century, didn't it?
Nope.
Not so much once we found out that there were, well, actually, if you want to be super technical, nuclear power plants are basically steam power plants.
Right, but when we think of steam,
Right.
we're talking about coal.
Yeah, coal-powered steam plants, not so much.
Yeah, and then things move on to oil and diesel. The punks are named after the most advanced fuel of the age, which is why that is called atomic punk or atom punk. Anyway, getting back to the brass tacks, it is a major theme of the game, but it's not a main focus, at least of this game. It definitely definitely seems like something that's a down the line thing. Like you do have a case where you deal a bit with the Redites, but once again, you're not. You personally really aren't worried about the incoming Steam automation revolution too much.
You're a police person. Why would that involve you that much?
Well, actually, you're not a police person.
Oh, you're a detective?
Yeah, you are a private detective. You quit the force, or rather, you were kind of pushed out because you shot your partner, or you let your partner die.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, that
Sorry,
is...
I literally... I wanted to play this game, but it didn't come out, so I couldn't actually get it until later than most of the time I had.
Yeah, this game just came out 3 days ago. I actually had this copy for a couple of weeks, but as so often the case, I don't get to a game until it's that week's game, so to speak.
Right, and we only got one code for this, so I mean, it looked interesting, so I bought it on my own. I just haven't had enough time to play much.
Yeah, it's like, in terms of graphics, yeah, the in-game graphics are on par with Unavowed. It's just this one has more detailed portraits. Like you'll see a lot of black backgrounds with the two characters' portrait talking. Anyway, getting back to the speech. Probably my biggest issue with the game as a whole is the voice acting, which is not terrible, but it's really flat in a lot of places. Like, Miles doesn't really have a lot of range, and maybe that he only has the one monotone most of the time. So, like he can raise his voice, but that's about it. Like, I suppose, there were limits to what the voice acting could accomplish, but it gets noticeable.
Yeah, when you spend so much time with one character, yeah, you begin to notice things with the voice acting.
Honestly, I liked Bill a lot more, but I think that was also kind of part of the dynamic. Miles is the straight man. Bill is the Costello. The ball of the bouncing force, or whatever you call that. The foil. There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, the music. Once again, a decent soundtrack. Though I would recommend lowering the volume because it can get shockingly loud. That being said, I think my favorite track was the ending theme, where there was a full bore chorale, and you can get the soundtrack for this game. And as far as pricing goes,
there's a bundle with a 9% discount, I think it was. So,
well, yeah, the price for the game itself is $15. The soundtrack is $6.99. The Lamplight City music bundle is $20 even. And yeah, as usual, if you're gonna buy that version because it's going to provide the best value. It's not a big discount, but it's definitely less than if you bought the soundtrack and the game separately. And yeah, the soundtrack is mildly worth going for. It's not amazing, but it was pretty good for what it was. As far as the game itself, $15 is about the right price for this. it's a bit more expensive than some of like the earlier works of Wajidai, but this game has higher production values than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like once again, its production values are honestly pretty on par with Unavowed. Like, it's just Unavowed had much grander ambitions in terms of its design. That's not to denigrate Lamplight City here. It just had different ambitions, but wasn't going for like a full party and a moldable protagonist, which were honestly is kind of a turnoff for me personally, because ironically, in having that kind of freedom, you there were limits to the actual design, both in terms of puzzle and in characterization. Not getting into the big twist of Unavowed aside, because characterization does show up. It's just, the person you're playing as is defined by you, or and your choices. But that's getting off track here. As far as Lamplight Cities go, I'd give a number rating a 7 out of 10. Really solid adventure game. Not amazing, but really good and pretty different from the typical adventure fare. Like, it's doing the whole, it's AGS, so it's doing the whole throwback Sierra graphical style and all that, just because that's the nature of AGS. But in terms of mechanics and narrative, it's quite different than a lot of adventure games. Like, if you like detective stories, go with this without a second thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm tempted to try to rate it a little bit higher, but again, I haven't played enough of it to have a really strong rating. But I think I might be.
Like,
I think I might be just a little bit more fond of this kind of game.
Well, it's also because I found this game a little too easy for its own good. Like, maybe this is a personal thing, but I never once felt really challenged by the choices presented for me. Like, it always seemed pretty obvious where the best path lie. And, that kind of took away from things. I could understand that, like, in the beginning, but, the cases really didn't evolve in terms of complexity in the moral sense. Like, maybe more layers of busy work, but they really didn't change from case to case. So maybe something to keep in mind for a potential sequel. Anyway, any final thoughts from you, Galix?
I hope I have some more time to play it, because I really, it looks really nice. And if you don't like the voices, you can turn the sound down.
Right.
Oh, and actually, one thing, when I was loading it up, when I went to load it from Steam, it has an option to bring up the settings thing, and it has good options for like opening in windowed or non-windowed, and the scaling, which is important because this is a fairly low resolution game.
Mm-hmm.
So you can like set it to load up at default resolution at 2 times, or at stretched or scaled sizes, which is useful.
All right, so on that note, that'll about do it for this review session. The week ahead, there is no Tuesday interview. It was a bit difficult getting some Euro interviews because of conferences and stuff, but they will be starting up. We do have some planned. Don't worry that they haven't been discontinued or whatever. But anyway, coming up this week, we've got Damon Sly of Mad Otter Games. We're going to be talking about Villages and Heroes, Wrath of the Thrush, which is releasing. Oh, let's see. I think next week. I think next Monday. Yeah, September 24th. So,
Hmm.
you know, looking forward to that. Based on what I've seen so far. I haven't got any download codes for that one yet, but you know, maybe after the interview, yeah, it's like, I think I was given footage, which is probably in my
Yay,
inbox.
footage.
Well, you know how it goes with pre-release stuff. Sometimes they have codes, sometimes they don't,
Yeah.
or sometimes they have codes that don't work because the game's not ready yet.
Yeah.
But that's getting into the minutia of things. Let's see. And yeah, I think that'll about do it.
Real quick for Final Fantasy 14 stuff. Tuesday being a new patch with new story stuff, I will try and stream a lot of that. And some people from the raid group will probably be joining me for some of the dungeons. Ogre will try and make it, but he says he has some things that might be happening. So keep an eye out for that. And then we should be raiding at normal time, doing the normal version of the Alphascape raids. And then we start into Savage on Thursday.
All right then. So on that note, we'll wish you good gaming.